Hello everyone, Railgan here with another video. Today we're having a look at yet another ZvT game where I'm going to play Lurkers against Terminarch H? Terminarch? I don't know. Not sure what he's called. Anyways, I'm going to skip past the early game so we can get right to the point. Because today we want to have a look at how do we actually win a game against a guy who, well, plays a fairly passive style with Lurker, with tanks against our Lurker play. Just kinda going past the early stages. We have some Hellion harassment, we're losing a couple of drones here and there, and we're going straight for the 2-base Hydra. I kinda looked at this at a similar game like yesterday, or rather last time I looked at a game. So I'm not really too interested in what's going on in the early game. I have the Hydra then done. I'm getting my upgrades. As always, I started with the Carapace upgrade rather quickly. And yeah, Turn is going for a standard bio style into double factory, because he saw the tanks, so he knows factory play should be pretty good. Staying on 3 bases for a fairly long time. I'm a bit scared of Liberators, so I build a Spire there and I open the back door so I can have a nice clean way over there to the 4th base. Also want to open up that back door over there. I have pretty good creep spread with my 2 queens that are there too. I'll spread the creep, going for the Lurker then, an infestation pit. Getting +2 missile upgrade just because I have the money anyways. I'm a bit supply stuck. We all know I make mistakes. Way too many mistakes to be exact. Yeah, he's being fairly passive with his tanks. He's kind of cutting off the center of the map. This map is like Dusk Towers. All you really need to do is control this part of the map, and then all you can be attacked by are drops. So if the Terran is in control of this area of the map, then the Zerg player can't really do too much anymore. Trying to take a good fight here, clean up as many of the tanks as I can. But I eventually have to go home. I mean, you can't really push into the Lurkers either. I'm slightly ahead in upgrades with the 1 Carapace upgrade lead. But nothing major. And as I said, he's kind of playing it defensive after this. I mean, I have creep spread all the way to his gold. He goes for his own 4th base, well, mine is already up. Immediately notice that drop, so I'm trying to shut it down. I think I'm going to burrow a Lurker here. Then have Hydra Lisks there in position otherwise. He's trying to abuse this cliff to shoot over here, but the Lurkers are kind of out of range. This vertical line is kind of the indicator for where I can siege my Lurkers, just like down here. It's about as far as I can go. And yeah, you can't really push into the Lurkers, as I said. I mean, you can kind of slow push them with tanks, I suppose. What I'm doing is I'm not really interested in keeping the base over there alive too much. What I'm trying to do is put him in a checkmate situation. I'm building a lot of Lurkers at home, so he cannot push into this. Like, there's no way that he's going to push into this with his Bioforce, right? I have so many Lurkers there, and at the same time I'm dropping him to kind of put him in a position where, well, he kills this base, but he's not going to run up into this army, and if he decides to go home, then he will lose a lot. This is kind of like a Terran doom dropping you with Marine tank, except the Marines are Hydras and the tanks are Lurkers, but it works kind of the same way. Then at home you have your own tanks ready, and you have the Vikings, the Corruptors. It's kind of what I learned from the ZvT matchup. Just doom drop them and they'll have a really hard time. So he's trying to defend at home, but if you check the supply, you can clearly see how much supply he's losing right now. And he's losing his production as well. I cleaned up the center of the map once I noticed that he was going home to defend. He drops down to 130 supply now. He doesn't have enough scans left. And I already have my next army over here. So now he's still trying to clean the Lurkers in his main, and my Lurkers now also moved across the map into his natural. So he also has to deal with the Lurkers over here. I'm trying to snipe the command center so he cannot scan. And then, well, he can no longer beat my Lurkers, right? He has Lurkers in the main, Lurkers in the natural, and has to GG out. So, yeah, Lurkers are pretty good. Not sure this would have gone if he went for the liberators, like mass liberators instead of tanks, but I figured I should show you guys this game anyways. Thank you all for watching, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye!